This is the Tri Swim Coach Podcast, where the most difficult leg of the triathlon becomes your friend, leaving your struggles and your competition behind you. TrySwimCoach.com, helping you to laugh at the water.
Welcome to Tri Swim Coach. This is Kevin, and this is episode number 110. And I have Chris Haig on the other line. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah, how's your life over in Arizona these days?
It's good. Just came off of Christmas training, so winter break. So being a teacher, I do enjoy my Christmas vacation. So got a good bit of training in there, and enjoying kind of the desert sun and the desert in winter. And there's pretty much no better time to be here.
Yeah.
So just enjoying some swimming outdoors and seeing the sun come up over the mountains. I mean, you can't get better than that.
Yeah.
And things in San Diego going pretty well. Have you stuck to your New Year's resolution?
So far so good. It's been a wet time though. We've had a ton of rain like I've never seen in San Diego. So it's kind of cool. I mean, not being used to this much rain, it's kind of a novelty right now. So not the greatest weather for if you want to go out cycling, but it's nice I've been going on these long walks in the rain and cool. With my really cheap umbrella, and yeah, it's a good time.
Excellent.
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, everything's good. New Year's goals, not really resolutions, but goals have been solid. So making it happen.
Sweet.
So before we get going on our topic, we're going to talk about our topic for today is going to be beginner versus intermediate level swimmers and what you need to know. And so we'll talk about that in just a minute. But before then, I want to read a review that came in on iTunes. And the title is Motivational, 5 stars from Dard Pythas, DARDPYTHIAS. And he or she says, Kevin and guests focus on aspects of training that are easy to implement right away and or serve as good reminders to stay the course. Excellent variety of perspectives and methods. Great. Well, thanks for your review. And if anyone else wants to give us a review on iTunes or any other of our many places that the podcast exists, it would be awesome. And we'll definitely read it on the next show. And anything you want to mention would be great. And if you want to email us or contact us about topics that you want to hear discussed or comments about podcasts that we've done, we'd also love to hear from you. You can go to tryswimcoach.com and get that info. And so good times.
Or also leave a message on our Facebook. That's another way to contact us.
That's right. Yeah, Facebook is a great place to leave a message. We've got all sorts of ways to contact us. So let's get into our topic of the day. And this is one that
speaking of easy things to implement immediately.
Yeah, exactly. I thought of that too. This is something that I think that people can kind of take and run with right away. And I'll start off with it, and then I'll let you go, Chris. So we were talking about this idea that some coaches and some people out there promote, just do drills all the time, and everyone needs to do drills, and drills are the savior for everything. And then there's other coaches that'll say, don't do drills. Like, it's a waste of time. You need to get right into swimming, and you need to start adding up the yardage and the distance and sprints and all that stuff, and don't pay attention to drills. And it's kind of both ways of going about it. Both methodologies are kind of wrong because you've got all kinds of people going into swimming, and they're all different levels. And especially with triathlon, there's just people are just starting swimming, and then there's people that swam in high school on their swim teams, and there's everything in between. And so to say that everyone should do this or everyone should do that is just a bunch of nonsense. Wouldn't you agree, Chris?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree completely. And the reason why I think this is quite appropriate is because with the new year, you're going to see a lot of articles like in Triathlon Magazine and on, coaches' blogs saying, do this, if you want to qualify for Kona, you have to do this, and this, or, I transformed this swimmer by throwing out all the drills and, burning his paddles. And he went from, a 2 minute per 100 meter yard, 2 minutes per 100 to a 120 overnight by doing this. You should do it too. That's very misleading. And obviously, they're writing it so that they can get, eyeballs on the page. and traffic to their webpage. But you really do have to be careful with those types of articles and read them very carefully without necessarily recognizing that they apply to you. So I think one thing that you have to do is you have to kind of assess where you are currently in your swim career, in your swim development, whether you're a novice swimmer and you're just starting out and you have no idea how to swim, or you kind of just very rough swim. Back when you were a toddler, you kind of know how to do, the front crawl. And then you have your intermediate who's been, swimming for quite some time. You've had a couple swim lessons. And then you have the more advanced, where you've been swimming for quite some time. You've got, lots and lots of meters under your belt, and you're ready to take your swimming to the next level. And I think as far as the vast majority of listeners to this podcast and triathletes in general, they fall into those three buckets. So today we kind of want to talk about how to, where those three buckets are, and where you can assess where those three buckets are, and what you need to do to go from one group to the next. So I guess with novices, in my opinion, just generally, as far as swim times go, I kind of see those in the 2:15 to 2:30 per 100 and above. Mm-hmm. From people who can only maybe swim one or two lengths without getting tired or fatigued, to the people who struggle to do more than 100 and are in that 2:15 to 2:30 range. And I think for the majority of them, doing drills and getting that form and technique down, building from that flotation and feeling more comfortable in the water, to floating properly and making sure that their legs aren't sagging, to hand placement in the water, that's what they need to focus on. And as far as intensity goes, a couple quick sprints. But for that group, I really like to emphasize that trying to, getting the proper form down, getting for the feel for the water down, but then taking that feel and trying to implement and carry that feel for the water into their sprints. I think that's going to help a lot. And as far as, minimum yardage in meters, I wouldn't even focus on that.
Yeah.
I would focus on, getting into the water more consistently, building the habit of getting into the water, and then also getting the habit of drills and visualizing yourself performing the drills properly. That's how I think what the novices need to focus on. So if you can relate to, my form's really, needs improvement, and it's really a struggle to swim a couple laps, that's what you need to focus on, in my opinion.
Yeah. And this could be, and they're even within that kind of novice level, beginner level, there could be people that really have never done much swimming at all. Like maybe you've been in the water, you can sort of swim, but it's really a brand new thing. And I just talked to somebody today in our The Fit Triathlete Transformation course, and her partner is one of those people that he really has a fear of the water. And from what she described, and a lot of people have this, and a lot of people just don't want to admit it, but it's there. And that's where even just swimming one length of the pool can be really difficult. And because of this fear of being in the water. And so it's a very, very common thing that I hear all the time and see all the time. But it's the one of the problems, one of the challenges is that people are embarrassed about it for some reason, because they think that it makes them look weak or something. But it's totally normal, and you can get over it. And there's some things, it's before even it's like pre-drills, like before you even do drills for if you're in that category, if you're just starting out in the water, you kind of get a weird feeling when you swim, like it just doesn't feel right. You could start with just putting your face in the water, like the little kids do the bubble blowing. Mm-hmm. That actually is really useful because your face in the water, your brain is actually getting used to having your face in the water. And that's important for the people that have that sort of level of fear. And so just starting with that, like starting to put your face in the water and then going from there to going down a little bit deeper and then a little bit deeper. And then if you have like a shallow end where it's like, 4 feet or something, then go down to the bottom and hold your breath for a few seconds. And then what that does is it sort of conditions your brain to get used to the idea that this is safe, because that's why you have that fear, is that your brain doesn't think it's safe to be in the water because you might go crashing to the bottom of the pool and hurt yourself. So that's where just starting out with that basic, putting your face in the water, kind of easing into it is totally fine before you even do any drills. But then when you start with the drills, you want to focus. There's two that we like to have people focus on, and that's the one is the balance drills. Those are the kicking on your side and doing the shark fin drill. And then if you want to get more information about this, we have a whole course, TriSwim Success. We can just go to triswimcoach.com to check that out. But we'll talk about, some of the basics here. And then from there, we go with the pull. So we talk about the high elbow catch. We've talked about it a million times on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But those are kind of the starting points. And then the third thing I want to mention before we move on here is the idea of, and you mentioned it, Chris, is like, if you watch other people that are kind of doing swimming correctly or doing freestyle correctly, if you find YouTube videos or something, that'll actually help you to get better at swimming. And even though you're not in the water, you can just sit there and watch YouTube videos and practice swimming. And it really does help, especially if they're doing that high elbow catch and they've got a nice balance. You'll start to implement that naturally in your own freestyle, especially as a beginner.
Mm-hmm. And I just one last point there with the breathing, especially getting your face in the water. For most people who haven't swum before, having breathing underwater, they might be athletes and they're used to, going hard and, being able to have all the oxygen that they want. Well, that's not true for swimming. So getting comfortable breathing underwater and having those bubbles and exhaling and not being able to gasp for air all the time is incredibly important psychologically.
Oh, yeah.
And so moving on to kind of that intermediate, what you can do as an intermediate once you've honestly assessed, I'm comfortable in the water. I've mastered the basics of this form of that high elbow catch and the floating. My hips aren't sagging anymore. I'm not crossing over, kind of advancing into that intermediate swimmer where a lot of people are, they're kind of stuck in this rut in that 2 minute per 100 to 145 range. So it's for them, they're still trying to, I find in general, master the basics of their form. So their form's definitely progressed a lot since from where it has been, but there's a lot they can still do to improve their form. Usually what happens, usually they're dropping their elbow still, so continue to work on that high elbow catch, and then also rotating to breathe. So instead of pulling up and breathing with their head, rotating their belly to the wall. So there's definitely still a need to do drills and a need to do form work. But at the same time, you've gone to a point where you can start to incorporate more intensity because you're able to go past 200, 250, 300, even 500 yards without having to take a breath. You can start incorporating more intensity. So that ratio of technique work to intensity can start to shift more towards the intensity. But that does not mean you can just throw out drills and think you're going to become a better swimmer.
Yeah, exactly. And just to be clear about the times that Chris is mentioning there in yards, because we here in America, we do yards and usually not meters.
Imperial system.
Yeah. Yeah. So it confuses people that listen from, I guess, every other country in the world. So, but this level would be to cut down from, maybe at the beginner level, you're going 90% of your workout is drills or more. And this level, at this point, you're doing, 50% less or less of your workout will be drills. Mm-hmm. Most people just skip right to it and they just go, oh, I'm done with drills and now it's time to do intervals. But that stuff can come in time. And, I think you're right. And at this point, when you're an intermediate level, and there's no hard and fast rule that this, as an intermediate, you must be going 2 minutes per 100 or anything like that. But
no, it's very fluid time parameters.
Yeah, and it all depends on your age and what your goals are and all that. But it's just kind of a general thing when you advance into this level. Got a few races under your belt, and you've kind of experienced some challenges along the way, and you've overcome some things. But then, this is where you can add in some intervals, and that's where you take. And some people don't know what intervals are, so I want to explain that. But just as a basic set, like you may go 10 100, so 10 100 yard or meter swims, and you do them on a certain time. So it could be 2 minutes. So within 2 minutes, you do that 100, and then you take whatever rest you have. Let's say you come in at 145, that gives you 15 seconds rest. You just keep repeating that and see if you can make several in a row. And then you kind of have a base of where your hundreds are, and you can get all fancy and add in different things. But just to start with, that's a good way to start. And, our programs are like, they're all 12 weeks. And for some of the more like the Olympic distance triathlon intermediate level, we'll be doing intervals by probably the third week of the program. So that gives you an idea. I mean, first 2 weeks are focused on technique and drills. And then after that, it's going to be a lot more intervals, but not all intervals. You don't want to just constantly do intervals. And then a little bit of sprinting, Chris mentioned that too. Like this is where you can add in a little sprinting, but not a lot at this point either. I mean, you don't want to be sprinting every single workout you do. Just yeah.
And the reason behind that is at the same time, while your form, it's definitely improved, as I said, it's not the greatest. And if you keep on, building if you don't fix the bad habits you have right now, you're going to hit a plateau, and it's going to be very, very hard to progress to the next level because you have these ingrained muscle memories of bad habits. So it's still important to do drills. And it's still important to incorporate those because you don't want to ingrain any more you don't want to ingrain any bad habits into your form work that it's going to take a while to undo later on down the road when you're trying to take your swim to the next group and to the next the time bracket.
Yeah, for me it was when I was on swim teams growing up and stuff like that. My thing was always a crossover. I had a really bad crossover on my left side. And because I did so many laps doing that incorrect stroke, it took a while to get over that, to like actually, even though it's like every coach I had would point it out, hey, you're crossing over again. But it still just took a long time to really get it and to kind of cement it into the right way to pull. So, what about you, Chris? Did you have anything like that?
S-curve. It was the S-curve.
Yeah.
You remember me, what was it, 3-4 years ago?
Yeah.
When you first saw me swim, I had that, it was my right arm, it would curve in the water, and that would throw off my legs. My legs would sway, and I wasn't breathing properly. And it took, 2 more years to get that straight pull back.
Yeah.
And that's something I have to be very mindful. So even at this age, even at this intermediate level, getting your swim analysis and getting that freshened up every couple of months, it's a great way to assess whether you're improving or not, and kind of keep you honest with what you're doing in the water, because it is hard to monitor your form because you think you're swimming perfectly, but if you look at it on video, you do have crossing over just a little bit, or an S curve, or sinking legs. So there's no shame in getting your video analysis done at this stage.
Yeah. And
get it continually assessed.
Right. Yeah. Video feedback is great. And the S curve comes from the way we were taught to swim, which was using arms and legs, and you must pull this certain way because you just need to keep going, really fast with your arms and legs. Otherwise you're going to sink. And that obviously has been totally changed for the last, 20 years. We know that that's not really the best way to learn how to swim. So that's why we're here, and we teach a completely different way that is much easier and more fun. And it's going to, in the long run, help you to go faster. And on that note, let's move to the advanced swimmers.
So with the advanced swimmers, you've done swimming for quite some time, or you're a speedy learner, and your form's pretty good, but you don't seem to be getting faster. You keep on looking at your video analysis. My video analysis, it's fine. I'm pulling straight back. I've got a high elbow. I'm flat in the water. I'm rotating. What's going on? It's at this stage that you can really start focusing on building your muscular swim endurance and also your overall swim fitness, and kind of start reading those articles that say, you really need to focus on longer sets and speed intervals and, less drill work and, less work with your fins. It's that this is the stage where you can, keep in touch with your good swim form and kind of reconnect with it every once in a while, but focusing on swim fitness is this stage. And just once again, to throw out a generalization for times, that 130 per 100 yards, so kind of that 135 for 100 meters ish, as once again generality, that's this type of level where your form is pretty good, if not excellent, and now you can start adding on the yardage to get faster.
Yeah, that's great. I like that summary. And also just more, you could do more intervals at this stage. You can add in more. You may not be doing that many up until this stage, but this is the time where intervals will help you a lot. But like you said, never drop the technique work. It's always good. You're just going to be a lower percentage, and depends on where you are. You may be dropping down to like 5% of your workout, maybe focused on technique and drill work and things like that. But it's always good to do them. I still do drills. I mean, I don't think there's any time where they're not good, where you just kind of passed it. And especially the high elbow stuff, that it's easy to lose the high elbow catch. Like that's one that can slip pretty easily. So that's a focus that you can have when you're doing some of your longer swims, is to just go, okay, high elbow every time, just think high elbow. And that's a good one to practice, no matter what level you are, but at this advanced level. And then this is where, we talked about sprints. You could do a little bit more on the sprints now in the advanced level. You can throw in, maybe at the end of the workout, or even do an entire workout that is sprints. But that when you do that, you don't want to sprint for, an hour. That would kill you. So you want to spread out your workout where you're doing, like, let's say, I always like this set where it's like, you go a 50 sprint. This is after, of course, warming up and everything, but you do a 50 sprint freestyle, and then you take a little rest, and then you go right into a 200, just moderate, easy to moderate pace, and think about your stroke. And then you do another 50. You do you can do 4 or 5 rounds of that, and that's a pretty damn good workout.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like stuff like that, where you can get really more fancy and fun. And then like you could even do deck ups. Like that's another one that we teach, is doing the deck ups. That helps you with strength. That helps you with form. And it's a nice little fun break to, kind of throw into your workouts. And then this is also, I want to mention that this is the time, like when you're at that advanced level, where you want to be looking for the other ways to, sometimes people get into these plateaus where they're like, I don't know why, but I'm just not getting any faster. That's when these things like yoga and strength training can really help. I mean, it's just tremendous. Like people have made just huge gains with just throwing in a yoga session once a week, or a quick strength training workout a couple times a week. So,
and I think regardless of what group, I think one thing that I know that will make you a better swimmer, regardless of whether you're a novice, an intermediate, or an advanced, and one great way to break through a plateau is just consistency in the water. I think regardless of what group, if you are consistent in the water and consistently getting in and practicing, then you're going to make some improvemons.
Yeah, not just the hot tub.
Yeah, and not just the hot tub. Very true.
I mentioned that earlier on our closed our private Facebook group for members. I think I mentioned that if you're struggling with motivation, think about just what can get you out there. Not like I need to do 3,000 meters today. More like, what can get you out there? For me, I like to go sit in the hot tub, and I'll do that before and after my workout. It's a nice little motivator.
It reminds me of the Saturday Night Live with Jim Carrey and the hot tub lifeguard. So
yeah, the hot tub time machine, right?
Yeah. But whatever gets you to the pool, whether it's the hot tub at the end or just the feeling of I did a really good workout. That's usually what gets me to the pool. The feeling of accomplishment, and I did something good today, and I'm progressing. It's all good no matter what group you fall into.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that goes along with our theme, befriend the swim. So befriend the water. Really, it's befriending the water, because if you fight it, then it's going to really hit you back. So it's a good thing to do, but, or a good mentality to have, I should say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's it. Do you have anything else to add for this one, Chris?
I think just 2 more points. Since it is the new year, thinking about, we've been mentioning a lot on our blogs recently, in our newsletter, about keeping an open mindset. And I think with these different groups, realizing that you will progress and that you can progress to the next level, and really your swim and your swim fitness, there's a lot of potential there. And I think just being curious and interested in how your swim's progressing, and just being, excited to realize, my swim can get better if I work at it. And then also we've been talking about, true acceptance, and that the accepting where you are fitness wise and accepting where you are swim wise. That's, with these groups, you got to be honest with yourself of where you fall to be able to address what you need to do to progress to the next level. And for that, you need to kind of accept what you're doing wrong and say, this is what I'm doing wrong right now, but I can work on it. I can fix it. And with some practice, it will go away, because I'm going to improve it, because I do have the power to do that. It's a lot of people say, oh, I'm a bad swimmer and I'll always be a bad swimmer. And that's not the case. You can be a good swimmer.
Yeah, it's that self-talk is so important. And we talked, I mean, the last podcast I interviewed Emilia Lahti, and we talked a lot about this and the mindset and how she's kind of gone about swimming, taking it up as a 35-year-old and in her first time in her life learning swimming. And she's doing a half Ironman in a couple months. And it's amazing to just, like if you want to go back and listen to that one, I think I highly recommend it. Just to kind of pick up on how she views it, how she looks at swimming, and how it can be a metaphor for all kinds of other things in life. So it's really cool. I mean, it's motivating.
Awesome.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for today. Thanks everyone for listening, and have a great week of training. And we'll be back in about a week with another one.
Talk to you then.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to another episode covering swimming and triathlon mastery. To get your free online swim clinic, just go to tryswimlessons.com. Give us your name and email, and we'll have session number 1 off to you right away. Begin your process of befriending the swim and laughing at the water now.